Yo, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy Glock. Today I'm be partnered with my boy K, the third place winner of both tournaments, and popular known to be a the best Phagin on PS4. K, say hello.
Hello.
That's so fucking cute. So today we're gonna be talking to you guys about Absolver, and this will be our last dojo time that I actually ever do. Because I don't really know what else to show you guys. I kind of use fight analysis as a way to replace the dojo time because I think there's a lot more important things to go over than just what that's offered. So let's get into hey, what's poppin'? All right, y'all, so check me out. I mentor a lot of people, right? A lot of you guys. I sit down with you guys, and a lot of you guys think that the reason why you're not winning is because it's your deck, right? You guys are mechanically good players. You understand your feinting, you understand your gold linking, you understand a little bit of this and a little bit of that. But the thing that you fail in is understanding the mind games, neutral controls, and things that are actually very important that can give you a significant edge in your fighting if you learn to implement these things into your fighting. So I'm here with Kay, and Kay is going to help me out today and teach you guys what's going on. We're going to start today with whiff punishments. So basically what a whiff is whenever you miss your attack. You miss your attack, right? There's ways to create scenarios to force your opponent to whiff, and we're gonna go over those right here in the video and with Kay. So Kay, whenever you're fighting people and you know that you want to get a whiff out or you think they're gonna whiff, what would you do to make your opponent whiff?
My main objective is to make them think that I'm gonna approach them, because some people, whenever they play incredibly defensive, they want you to approach and make the first move so they can react. And that's usually what I do. It looks dumb, but walking back and forth is really good. It's considered. It makes them think that you're going to approach them first, and that's what makes them press a button, because everything is mainly reaction based or instinctual. So people see you walk up, they're like, oh shit, he's about to press it against me. And if they have a long reaching move such as jar bash, reaching, leg breaker, etc., then that's the first thing they're going to press. So you might as well just back up, go forward, back up, make them whiff. They miss, you punish.
And that's what the whiff punish, that's the punishment in whiff punish, because again, to whiff means to miss, right? So the whiff punish means that you have to capitalize on that moment right whenever they miss. A lot of players don't actually utilize the movement in their fighting, and what's so cool about a game like Absolver is that the fighting is super simplified, right? Like you have the power to just move. Most fighting games require a bunch of complicated techniques in order to get this kind of speed, but Absolver, you just move the analog stick, right? So when you're in your front stance, you walk faster forward, but you walk backwards slower. When you're in your back stance, you walk backwards faster, but forward slower. So understanding how to use these stances effectively is very important. So you can see in the fight with me and Kay that Kay has reaching Magiri. So if I want to make him whiff his reaching Magiri, I'm going to need to be my back stance. I want to get as much range as possible because that move is very deceptive. It's very fast and it throws you really far, right? So I need to ensure that I'm out of range of that. So whenever he throws moves like that, whenever you know what's in someone's deck and you realize how they open up, what they're going for, you can basically create the space in order to make them mess up and then hit them. Now the thing about this is though, you have to be very calculated with it, because if you do not get the moment right when the opportunity presents itself, you're going to get hit. And it's actually shown in the clip. He tries to throw reaching, I try to punish too late, I get hit with wobble low. It will happen to you every single time. So if you want to make sure that you understand how to whiff, you want to make sure that you know what's in their deck first. You want to make sure you analyze their deck, see how your opponent approaches you a majority of the times. Once you get used to them and comfortable with their flow, it will make it a lot easier for you to bait them and make them whiff. And once they whiff, you hit them. That can actually go a long way, because when you utilize spacing and you use whiffing against them, you almost in a sense neutralize their offense, and you're going to force them to become defensive. When they realize they cannot just keep throwing attacks at you, you're going to just make them whiff, and you're just going to punish them for it. You're just going to keep taking your turn back. They're going to be a lot more smarter with their approach, and for that reason that gives you a slight edge, because now you're controlling them, you're making them do what you want them to do. So understand that's going to be the outcome. They're going to go from incredibly offensive to incredibly defensive, and by that point you can hurt their stamina, or you could just take your turn and keep pressure. It's all in your hands, but that's how you make somebody whiff.
this segment is about baiting. Now, baiting is what you're going to be doing a lot versus stronger players, because you're going to make them think that you're going to do some shit. That's pretty much a summary of it. So, let's say I'm here, and you're all the way over there. This is called neutral, right? So, if, let's say for example, you have a long-reaching move. Most decks have long-reaching moves, so you can approach it easier. But let's say if you don't have one, or you have one that has like a little bit of range, right? For example, Liberty. Liberty is really good. In this example, if, let's say for example, you do Liberty all the time, right? For reaching, because it has a good reach, and it does a good chunk of damage, so it's a really good reaching move. But if let's say your opponent knows that you're going to throw it out and you feign it, that's considered a bait, because then they use their reaching move in reaction to your reaching move. If I feint Liberty and you do, let's say, reaching Nagiri or Jarbash, then that gives me a better chance of making you whiff your attack, and then me whiff punishing. You could bait more effectively by using 12 frames. I like to use 12 frames, like in the middle of us doing our stances and we're trying to approach each other. I'll do like, let's say, hook, temple knock, for any 12 frame move. Just throw that out. They're gonna think that you're gonna keep going, or they're gonna try to approach and bait you when you're pretty much baiting them. And once you bait them, they're gonna react towards it. They're gonna, like, let's say, they're gonna defensive, they're gonna block, they're gonna attack. That's where you get your whiff punish on. You know, baiting, you can do so many things to bait. That's why I'm like trying to think right now that it's endless. You can do anything to bait. Throw out, attack, you can block, but you're not gonna actually block. You can feint. There's so many things you can do, but as long as you know that what your opponent is going to do if you bait them, then you should be good, because move punishing exists.
For sure. And I think that feigning is another like really underrated method of baiting, because like he said, you can really do anything to bait. So again, baiting just means that you do something to get a reaction and then, you know, capitalize on it, right? For example, if I have like Jarbash in the top stance and he knows the Jarbash, him being a windfall, he's going to end up ducking it, right? So I can feint that Jarbash to get him to see the animation and cause him to duck, and then punish him with a guard break like front kick. Things like that. So your baiting is very important because it forces your opponent's hand just to give them something else completely differently. Another really popular form of baiting is using step cancels as openers with a 50-50. So let's say like in your front stance, you can put fast cross punch as an opener, right? Okay, and then you can make the alternative side kick. So if you repetitively hit them with the fast cross punch, they're going to get used to seeing that animation go over and over, right? So to the point where whenever they see you throw that again, they're going to be like, oh snap. They're going to see you in that stance, they're going to try to sidestep, right? But if you press triangle, well, now it's a horizontal that they have to duck under. So now you've baited them by that point successfully, and now you have your turn. And again, by that point you can determine if you want to use this turn for pressure or if you want to use this turn to disengage. You can use a lot of different things for a lot of different scenarios. So for that reason, you got to be kind of aware of what your goal is, right? If you need stamina, you're probably going to hit with a side kick into a disengagement, right? Or if you want pressure, you might kind of like hose them down a little bit with the front punch first and then throw the side kick to get that damage and those plus 10 on hit to get a frame trap. So yeah, bait. So neutral, what neutral is, actually I'm gonna let Kay explain it. Kay, what is neutral?
Oh, neutral usually refers to when neither player have an advantage or a disadvantage when it comes to like where they are, or the spacing, or momentum, etc. If nothing's happening and you guys are just in a standoff or a stare down, then that's neutral, because nothing's happening. No one has an advantage or disadvantage.
Indeed. So when someone has neutral, what would be the main thing that you would do if you find yourself in neutral?
Well, during neutral, the best thing to do is to play footsies. And to play footsies, you have to bait, which that's where everything correlates, right? So by expressing footsies, you would have to make your opponent think that you're gonna throw out an attack. That, or make them think that you're gonna approach them. So if me and you are, let's say, usually in a standoff, we're going in circles or going forward and backing off immediately. If one of us attacks first and we miss, that's when we commence our whiff hunt. But the whole expression of that miss was footsies because I made you think that I was gonna approach. But since you whiffed, I get my whiff punish on.
And in what situations do you think that it's a good idea to create neutral?
Well, in this game, stamina is like a huge priority.
Definitely.
So the best way to create neutral, or not the best way, but the best time to create neutral would be whenever your stamina is low, or you want to disengage because your opponent is gonna get momentum from you. And by momentum, I mean they're gonna analyze you more, see patterns. So if you want to back up to reinsert what you're gonna do next, or if you want to, have a new game plan, that's when you should create neutral.
And when should you disrespect neutral?
Whenever you think that they're going to disengage. If you think that they're going to unlock or back up because their stamina is low, then yeah, man, go for it. Beat them down. But another example would be like if your opponent's mashing or just going crazy and they have no stamina, that's when you shouldn't respect them. If you have let's say, because after all that beating that they're doing on your shield, you're gonna have mid to no close to stamina. If you have mid stamina or no stamina at all, then you should probably disengage as well, unless you know that they're gonna guard and get a guard break. If you have mid stamina, then yeah, sure, go for it. Just beat them up because they don't have any stamina left to defend themselves. But usually in this situation, if they have no stamina, they're going to want a defense. So they're going to use their ability, let's say, stagger with foot stumble, or stagger with side dodge, or Forsaken with the left and right parries, Cajun with slips, Cult with defensive, Blue, absorb. All of that factors in to their stamina. So if you want to approach it and disregard neutral, you can go for it because they don't have stamina to defend themselves with. That's about it.
For sure. So when you're in neutral, there's ways that you can come in and come out. You have your range attacks that can really help you, change the tides of neutral. And then you have your pressure, which can help you stay on top of somebody. And if they create neutral, then you go back into your game of footsies. And then either one of the fighters has to figure out from that point forward who's going to get their momentum, who's going to be on pressure first, who's going to have to go on defensive, who's going to go on offensive. And then by each scenario as it plays out, you're going to have to figure out how to deal with that and what you need to do to get what you want. And that's why a lot of the people that I train, I always tell them whenever we're fighting, I ask them what was your goal? If you do not have a goal to achieve, then you're not really going to get very far. If you don't know why you're attacking, I mean, this is like a crazy thing to say, right? But you're probably doing something very wrong. Sometimes I hit people again for offense. I don't really want to fight you. I want to hit you to scare you, to keep me off of you. For example, a guard break. Sometimes if I have low stamina, you can throw out a front kick and then boom, you recreate neutral. That attack was not meant for defense, it was meant for offense. You understand what I'm saying? And lastly, ladies and gents, your actual combat, right? Outside of all the neutral and the baiting and the spacing and why you should do this and why you should do that, this is your actual fighting that we're talking about right now, all right? So I know that when I watch fight analysis, outside of the top dogs, right, there are a lot of mistakes that I've seen made commonly. From people not knowing when to feint, how to feint, when to stop feinting, to things like people getting pressure and then trading their pressure and dropping their turn to randomly use their defensive. All kinds of different techniques that I see a lot of lower level players doing whenever I do fight analysis. And what you guys gotta understand is, even though I have my own thing to do, I watch a lot of you guys. A lot of you guys who comment on my videos, I click your videos and I see that a lot of you guys have your own Absolver content. And when I watch some of you guys fight too, I see a lot of sloppy play. I'm not even gonna lie to you. It looks very sloppy. So the way that you're gonna want to handle your combat is a variable of how your opponent handles your combat. So let's take, for example, first, let's talk about your pressure. Your pressure is whenever you're just going gun-ho, whooping ass, right? Like you're going crazy out here, right? Like you, like bang, 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 right? You're just on them, right? Your pressure is what you kind of do not ever want to exchange for no fucking reason, right? There's a lot of people, like when I train you guys, who literally mid combo will stop attacking me to either back off of me with like only a quarter of stamina missing, or they will throw their defensive for no reason. You never want to throw your defensive for no reason. In fact, the only reason why you would ever want to do something like that is if you can visibly see that your opponent is trying to hit you out of your string and you're starting to run low on stamina. You can then stop your attacks to use your defensive against his opener that you can visibly see, by the way, right? You can use your opener to gain more stamina back and prey on the fact that he's a jabber, right? That would be the only reason why you want to do that. But meanwhile, if somebody is on guard, if somebody is trying to jab you, or if somebody is just like, you know, spamming their defensive, like for example, a lot of beginning windfalls and staggers love to just sidestep everywhere, right? You never ever want to trade your pressure to give them a turn. You're giving them a free turn. You never want to do that, right? So you guys got that part down, right? You're fighting, you're beating someone's ass, right? Then you have your feinting. Your feinting is another really, really important form of your pressure, because what your feints does is it keeps you as unpredictable as possible, and it allows people who guess to either whiff their ability, or it can keep people from, you know, understanding what you're doing. It's a very good mix-up tool. So the reason you would want to feint is, for me, for two reasons. Number one, it is to basically keep them from stopping something that's very reactable. So guard breaks are usually around 20 frames, the fastest one being 18 frames, right? Then you have, like, you know, your liver knee, you have your spinning high kick. These are moves that the opponent can look at the telegraph and they can quickly react to. These moves also have a later feint time, so whenever you throw them and you feint, they still see a portion of the wind up starting to let go, and they will usually react to that, and you can punish them for that reason. It'll be for that, or I would do it to mix them up whenever they know where a move is at. So even moves that are like 12 frames, so we have reacts, we have reads, right? So you can react to big moves, but the smaller moves, like 12 frame moves or 10 frame moves, people have to read them. They have to calculate that that's in that location of their deck, and they have to use their defensive against it. So if they are constantly reading a certain move, I'm going to feint that move. But for no other reason, you need to use your feinting. Don't trade your pressure for no reason. Okay, you got anything to add to that?
Well, you pretty much summed it up. If you know that your opponent is going to use their ability to counter a certain section of your deck, then you might as well feint it. Don't just pray that it's gonna hit. I mean, you can. There's also another option, delaying. Delaying is an amazing option because you have a better chance to react to their defensive. But
yeah. So your delays, they're also very important too. That he is definitely right. So what your delays are going to do is they're going to slow things down a little bit for you, and they give you a little bit more time to do things and a little bit more leniency than a feint. I think delays are just as important as feinting is, right? So for example, let's say I have low back fist into axe kick, right? I could throw the low back fist, you might see it, right? And you're going like, okay, I got to sidestep because here comes this axe kick, right? So if I delay it, whenever you use your sidestep, there is a window of time whenever you cannot do anything. It's a very small window, but there's a small window of time where it's like a recovery window, right? You have to get your bearings back before you can use your guard, before you can throw an attack, anything like that. You cannot just immediately go into doing something, right? So if I get that timing perfect by using my delay in the middle of that window, I can then drop the axe kick and boom, it's going to hit you by a delay, right? Or you can use delays to keep things interesting. So let's say, for example, if, like, you know, someone's getting down the rhythm of your deck, right? I think that with cults and Forsakens especially, you really do not want to create a rhythm, right? So if you want to keep a rhythm like you know, dope, you can use your delays and basically throw everything off for them as far as timing goes. Because if you can throw off their timing, you can get a lot of damage off them whiffing their ability. And that's like a really cool advantage that you can have to yourself versus just running up to somebody and just, you know, goaling, spamming over and over with, like, you know, just random uncalculated feints. That's basically how you want to put that whole thing together. But it's deeper than that. So, okay, can you tell us about unlocks?
Yeah, so the way to unlock, now this is gonna sound complicated, but it really isn't. R1 is locking onto your opponent, and then pressing R1 again will unlock your opponent. You're free to move around. So, there are some moves that when unlocking, and I can't tell you all the moves that do it, but there are a lot. A lot of moves will unlock, when you unlock, you attack. Press R1, hold your analog stick, your left analog stick, backwards, or down, I should say, and then attack again. Now you can do this with your alternate attack as well, triangle, but what this does, it creates neutral once again. You have space to do whatever you want. No one's at an advantage or disadvantage. And by creating neutral, you then again have more time to analyze your opponent or to gain stamina back. Unlocking is very important when it comes to high-level gameplay because it could trick your opponent or it could give you more chance to bait them or to gain stamina back. But you never want to unlock randomly. And sometimes you could, there's also this thing whenever you unlock and lock back to your opponent and press square or triangle, your character will like do a different move from your stance or create a pattern, like a loop. Like let's say Richimagiri, if you press square to do Richimagiri, unlock with R1, hold back on the left analog stick, and then press square again, he will do Richimagiri again, rather than do a completely different move. Now that is a really good unlock, because it gives you so much space, and so much time to analyze your opponent once more. But you never want to go back into it consistently. If I do Richimagiri, unlock, go back into Richimagiri to get some space, and I just go back into you again with Richimagiri, sure, it's a really good mix-up, but you can't do it all the time because then it's a pattern that your opponent will figure out. You only want to do it when it's completely necessary. Or if you want to switch up, you can do Richimagiri and then use walk back into your opponent, press triangle, and you have a different move there. Like, let's say for example, Richimagiri, and I have Jarbash onto my top move. I think it's right stance. If you have Richimagiri onto your bottom left, it'll do reaching into Jarbash. So you have to like play around with your deck once you create it with these unlocks. See what gives you the most space whenever you unlock. Let's say for your alternates, if your alternate attack gives you more space, then you can use your alternate if you want to create more space, or if you want to use your regular attack square to unlock and then go into a different move that'll mix them up. And perfectly, yeah, you can do that. It doesn't matter. It's just as long as you're not willy-nilly with it. You have to really think what you're doing. Don't just buttons.
Definitely. And when someone unlocks against you, you can definitely take your turn back by using a chaser. So say for example someone uses crushing palm or liver knee to unlock, you can throw a move that has a lot of reach and you can chase them. Whenever someone throws an attack, like if you think about it, an unlock is in a sense like a whiff. So if they miss that attack, it's now your turn, right? And you can take full advantage of that if you can actually predict it. Another good way that you can keep your pressure and your momentum going that a lot of people do not utilize is your keep out and your guard. There is a player named She's Deja. Who else plays keep out? I know Gamek plays a lot of defense. He plays keep out. Who else plays keep out? You know anybody, okay? Curly, yeah, no, Curly will play keep out with you. I don't think his playstyle is keep out, but
it depends on how you're playing. If you're playing very aggressive and he needs to space you out or play keep out, then he will go into that.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. Yeah, he definitely will. Yeah, there's a few keep out players. I think Obi is also a huge keep out player. Yeah, so keep out is a very powerful tool, and what keep out is kind of self-explanatory. It's you keeping your opponent out. Now there's a way that you can do that very easily. So when you take a player like Deja, her chin palm is pretty notorious because her guard and her defense is very high, right? People do not use their guard as much as they should. People are so gun-ho on hitting someone that they don't block, and for that reason you guys take a lot of unnecessary damage. Guys, use your guard. Block. Before you take health damage, take stamina damage. that will keep you in the game that much longer, and there's no telling what can happen from there. During the time of you using your guard, collect information, but meanwhile, whenever you need stamina back, you can start playing keep out. So for example, if you know what a step cancel is, it is a move that starts and ends in the same stance. So let's say for example in your back stance, I think back stance step cancels are way more important than front stance, because you can backpedal faster and use a move that can, you know, keep your opponent at bay while you're also walking backwards. That's just my personal opinion, right? So moves like chin palm and low back fist, if you're in your bottom right stance, they will be in the bottom right stance as an opener. And same thing with bottom left. If you're in your bottom left stance, they'll be in bottom left as an opener, right? They will also end in bottom left. So what you would do is you would throw the attack and then take one baby step and then throw the attack again. This will cause the attack to repeat. And as that attack keeps repeating, you can do whatever you want to do with it. So for example, a player like DOJO, what she'll do is she will walk away from you and she will bait your aggression, and whenever you get close, she hits you with the chin palm. She takes one step back, you think she's going to disengage, it's a trap. You try to chase her again, you open up, boom, the chin palm. Now she's forcing you to respect her chin palm, and you're going to sit on guard because you don't know if she's going to do it again or not, and you're more likely going to bait it. And now she's backpedaling 3,000 years away from you, and now you have to figure out how to deal with that spacing. So that's the way you can keep people off of you. So your keep out game, it has to be on point, because it's going to stop aggressive players from being too aggressive. It's going to make them kind of think twice before they just start throwing a fucking barrage of attacks at you, and you're sitting there like, I don't know how to handle this. Keep them away from you. Play keep out, use your guard, break the deck down one move at a time, and get away from it. As long as you're at a distance, people cannot pressure you back, right? So just stay away and do what you gotta do from that point forward. Are you missing something?
Yeah.
We are?
Alright, so if you do not want to use that step cancel back, you could also use some back stance movements that will lead to the other back stance. So for example, left back stance will lead into the right back stance. So there are some moves that actually do that. If you do not want to use a step cancel, such as low back fist, chin palm, wall blow. If you don't want to use any of those moves into your back stance because you'd rather use a different kind of mix up, or you have a preference in your deck, you could just easily look for those kind of moves that don't do that, you know what I mean? Like donkey slap, that's a good step cancel, but no one uses it because it's very underrated. Twist back kick is a good step cancel.
Yeah, that is nice. DOJO actually used that at one point too. That's funny.
Underneath kick.
Yeah, that's really good. It's very devious too, because like its range is way bigger than like it looks. Like you wouldn't think it's gonna reach that far. It will catch you.
Oh yeah, definitely. This move is used a lot, but you can also use it for back, or it goes, if you have it on your back bottom left or bottom right, it will go to the opposing stance, which still gives you a chance to backpedal a lot more. Such as spin back fist, that's a good one. I don't think heal to me. Yeah, heal to me does it. You're rocking. Temple knock is an amazing step cancel. Very annoying.
Your rocking is not a step cancel.
No, wait. No, that's not what I meant. I meant like back, bottom left,
for sure.
Back to bottom right.
Because the reality is that what the walk does is it just cancels the dial. That's all it does. So you know how the moves start and end in the same stance. Let's say for example, like you have, like you're in bottom left, you throw your Mawashi ends in top right, but you have another move. Let's say also, let's say you have like you have crouching elbow after your Mawashi, right? But which that will take you back into your back stance. So your Mawashi to the top right, and I think crouching elbow will take you back in the bottom left, I think. So if that's the case, if you were just to throw to your Mawashi and take that baby step, you will end up in top right. If that makes any sense, right? You got to know how that dial works. All the step does is it stops that dial from picking up the next move, which is the difference between a step cancel and a delay. See, what a delay does is it locks in what you just did, and so long as you don't step, you'll just go to the next move. But if you step, you cancel that next move and you go to where that last move ends at, and that's how the step cancel basically works.
So now we're going to talk about loops, right?
Okay.
Now, whenever you create a deck, you may not know this, because while creating decks, it takes experimenting to see how it feels, play it out if you like it or not. There are loops in your deck. Now, this loop can limit from 1 move to 2, or 1 move to 5.
For sure.
Because it doesn't necessarily need to be a short limit of a loop. But some loops are very, very deceptive to the point where you could have, let's say, Chin Palm into back aura, and then that entire thing could loop. But after Chin Palm, you could have, let's say, Liverny. Now, what that gives you is the opportunity to deceptively trick your opponent into thinking you're going to do the same thing over and over again. But let's say the next match, I do something completely different out of the loop. I do Chin Palm to back aura, and then flute swing. You know? But loops they are hard to deal with depending on how your opponent likes to play. If they like to mash, then it shouldn't be that hard to see that they did it like twice or 3 times and then they did something completely different. If they realize that you picked up on their pattern / loop, then they're going to switch up, and that's when you have to analyze again. Now, when it comes to the fighting mindset, right, you always have to think, what is their pattern? You can't just assume all the time what they're going to do, because assumptions give you, you're going to get hurt rather than reading them completely hard, because you don't want to overassume and boom, you get hit by Liberty. Boom, you get hit with flute swing because you thought they were going to feint. Boom, you get hit with something huge. Like, you don't know. You have to analyze their patterns. You have to get into the natural state of their natural state. You got to realize what they're thinking. Put yourself in their shoes. You got to think, if I was them and I was doing all this pressure, what would I do next? Would I disengage and unlock, or would I keep going? You have to really think about these things. You can't just press buttons. You really can't. It won't work. If your opponent is new, then sure, press buttons. They're not going to be able to think it out. But this is the whole point of the video. You have to think. Don't. I'm not saying like you're not thinking. Don't take it that way. I don't like, oh, okay, he's calling me stupid. No. I'm saying... I'm saying you gotta analyze. You can't assume, like, you know?
For sure.
I know it sounds dumb, but you really gotta think about your opponent.
He's definitely onto something with that, though, guys, because that is a thing that I see a lot of players do, where you guys, y'all aren't really in the zone of what's happening. You are just merely pressing the buttons, and you're kind of in a way just spraying and praying, right? That is a really huge common thing I see in the low level bracket. Even some mid-level players do that same thing. They kind of switch it, right? Like 1 minute you are trying to calculate, and then when you realize you can't, you just start the guessing game, right? You don't ever want to be in that position. Scared. Yeah, for sure.
Get scared. If you're scared and nervous, then you start to panic, and when you start to panic, you begin to press and use your abilities like uncontrollably. Like your fingers start to do the talking rather than you using your head. You can't do that. You don't lose confidence. Don't think you can't win. Don't do any of that. Think. And if you like to react rather than read, and reading is knowing what your opponent is going to do next, but if you rather react to, let's say, a slower move, like 14, 16, 20 frames, doesn't matter, then go for it. But you gotta know what they have in their deck. And if you're new and you don't know what the moves are, then you gotta start learning them, bro. There's no cheat code to this. You gotta learn this.
Gotta lab up. And another thing too, guys, you gotta also be aware of your stances. Another thing I see a lot of mid and low level players doing is you guys use the same stances, or you will have a dedicated stance for a scenario. So for example, very popularly, mid-level players and some low-level players will use parry and strike and back trip kick with Tetsuzanku 50-50, right? That is a horrible idea, because I know for a fact when you go into your back stance, you're going to try to mash on me. When you have stances designed for dedicated purposes, all I gotta do is create the scenario for you. And by that point, it's easy counter. You know what I mean? So you don't want to find yourself in a position where you have a dependency, because once you create a dependency, you're going to lose. So keeping your stances unique, fresh, ensuring that your decks don't have a bottleneck, which is a repetition of 2 properties. So if you have like a left high and another right high, and your 50-50 is, you know, another right high, then off of that left you have no choice but to go straight, and it's all high. And for that reason, everything can be ducked. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to be in a position where you have something keeping you from mixing your opponent. You always want to keep your deck spicy, right? So make sure you're keeping those stances changed, you're always rotating them, and you're looking for reasons to use your disengagement. I think that disengaging is just as important as engaging your opponent, because it allows you to take a moment to assess that. If you're using the same stance over and over, you need to take a break for a little bit, figure out what you keep doing over and over. It keeps getting you countered. Go back, switch it up, hit them a few times, and know when a combo is over. I tell people that a lot, but they don't understand what I mean when I say that. Know when your string is done. Do not always just keep going and keep going. Sometimes you don't want to say a lot, you just want to say the right things. It's kind of what you want to, you know, put that into your fighting. You don't want to do a lot of hitting. You just want to make sure that the cards that you use when you hit them are the right ones. And that's why I do not put a third move in all my decks. All my decks have 2 moves in the sequence and alternative 50-50. That way, at all points in my deck, at any point if I press triangle, the move goes a different direction and it does a different property. That's how I set my decks up. And if you guys want to see how I set my decks up, let me know down in the comment section below, and I'll make a video in particular talking about decks and deck building. And hopefully we'll also be joined by another high level player to give some more insight with that situation. But you definitely want to ensure that your deck is staying nice and interesting, and you do not create patterns, behaviors, or dependencies. Because once you start doing that, you become that much more easier to break down. And once that happens, you're done, dude. It's over. It's all over.
Yeah. You don't want to be obvious.
For sure. Anything else? Anything we're done?
I might just say a whole summary.
Yeah, go for it.
Of everything.
I'm gonna follow up after that.
Right now. So to summarize everything, you just gotta know what you're doing, when to do it, how to do it, and why you're doing it. You don't just go all out.
And you know that you're better at the game whenever you're doing it naturally. Because a lot of high level players, like, we don't consciously think that through. You know what I mean? We're just doing it, but we know exactly what we're doing, so therefore we don't have to think that hard about it. Whenever you get information like this, it's like an information overload, right? Like, you're getting told a bunch of things, you're learning about neutral, spacing, baiting, fuck. It sounds like a lot, doesn't it? So it's like, you don't really know what you're doing, and you're going to be so actively trying to do it that you're actually going to be super readable, right? But once you keep practicing it, go ahead and take your L's. Take your L's right now, because you're going to be back and better than ever, I promise you, right? Once you actually figure out how to properly apply it, it's just going to be second nature. Suddenly the things that you used to think about are just going to be visibly apparent. You're not going to have to think about it. It's going to be ingrained into the nature of how you play the game, and that's what we call play style, right? So for that reason, the more you practice these things, the easier everything else becomes. All you guys gotta do is just sit down, commit yourself to it, and you will definitely be better. But more than likely, if you're losing very consistently in Absolver or having a problem fighting high level players, it's probably why you're not using the unwritten laws of basically any fighter. This is things that you can apply to any fighting game. You have to read your opponent. You have to know your spacing. You have to know your tools, and you have to use them to the best of your ability to perform at the best of your ability. And so for that reason, I've presented it to you guys, and I hope that this helps you out at all. Thank you, Kay, for being here. Thank you, Kay, for being here. But I hope you guys are anything up. If you did, drop a like. Higher level players, if you guys are in my comment section, please drop some insight or anything that I may have missed, or anything that you would like to have added to it, anything I could have been wrong about. Drop that down in the comment section below. Oh, and check this out. Where the fuck is my bag? Bag! So I made a small mention in my video, I think my last video, speaking about us having a competition in my school. For first place, we get $10. Well, I got some good news for you, bad news for me. There was no $10 card at GameStop, so the stakes have been increased. $20, $25 actually, PSN to the person who gets first place in my school for this season's school challenge. So you guys practice up. My school code is 47847 if you'd like to participate. And yeah, good luck to you guys. Anything you want to say before we leave, Kay?
I think that's about it.
We're all good here. Well, guys, God bless you guys, and thank you for giving me the time of day. Y'all stay safe, drink water, and don't go outside. Goodbye.